The thing about Halloween parties is that everyone gets to pretend they're someone else for a night. Me, I was already pretending to be someone else every damn day, a happy husband. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name's Greg Patterson, and I manage 3 restaurants in downtown Columbus. Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps my wife Alicia in her designer workout clothes. Tonight, she'd squeezed herself into a black leather Catwoman outfit that left absolutely nothing to the imagination. I was dressed as a pirate, complete with an eye patch that kept sliding down my sweaty forehead. "Greg, stop fidgeting with that thing," Alicia hissed as we walked up the steps to Richard and Nikki's house. "And for God's sake, try to look like you're having fun." "I am having fun," I lied, adjusting the plastic sword hanging from my belt. Nothing says good time like watching my wife parade around in latex while I look like Captain Crunch's unemployed brother. She shot me that look, the one that could freeze beer mid-pour. "Don't start tonight. This is important for my career." Right. Alicia worked in marketing for a tech startup, and half her coworkers would be here tonight. The other half would be busy posting Instagram stories about how much more successful they were than everyone else. The party was already in full swing when we arrived. Richard answered the door dressed as a vampire, fake blood dripping down his chin. He'd been my friend since college, back when we both had hair and dreams. "Well, well, if it isn't Blackbeard and his first mate," he grinned, stepping aside to let us in. "Very funny," I muttered, but I was smiling. Richard always knew how to cut through the tension. The house was packed with costumed partygoers, music thumping loud enough to wake the dead. I recognized most of the faces, neighbors, co-workers, the usual suspects from our social circle. What I didn't recognize was the way my wife's eyes immediately started scanning the room like a heat-seeking missile. "There's Susie," Alicia practically squealed, abandoning me to rush toward her best friend. Susie Martinez owned a hair salon downtown and had the personality of a foghorn with anxiety issues. She was dressed as Wonder Woman, which was optimistic considering she'd never wondered about anything more complex than which reality show to binge next. Her husband Dominic stood beside her, arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Now Dominic was interesting, factory foreman, built like a brick shithouse, and had the kind of rough edges that made suburban wives whisper behind their wine glasses. He was dressed as some kind of gladiator, all oiled muscles and leather straps, subtle as a heart attack. I watched Alicia and Susie embrace like they hadn't seen each other in years instead of yesterday at yoga class. The way women carried on, you'd think they'd been separated by war instead of 24 hours. "Drink?" Richard appeared at my elbow with 2 beers. "God, yes." I took the bottle gratefully and drained half of it in one gulp. "Easy there, sailor. It's going to be a long night." He wasn't wrong. I could already see Alicia holding court with her usual crew, Susie, a couple of women from her office, and somehow Dominic had migrated into their circle. They were laughing at something, heads bent together like conspirators. "You know what I heard?" Richard lowered his voice, leaning closer. "Jenny from accounting told Nikki that half the marketing department thinks your wife and Dominic have been getting a little too friendly at the gym." My grip tightened on the beer bottle. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, probably. You know how people talk. But apparently they've been spotted having coffee after their workouts. A lot of coffee." I felt something cold settle in my stomach that had nothing to do with the beer. "Since when does Dominic go to Alicia's gym?" "Since about 2 months ago, according to Jenny. Right around the time Susie started complaining that he was never home." Across the room, I watched Dominic lean down to whisper something in Alicia's ear. She threw her head back and laughed, one hand landing on his chest. The gesture was quick, casual, but I caught it. More importantly, I caught the way his hand brushed against her lower back as she pulled away. "I need another drink," I said. The kitchen was quieter, just a few people mixing cocktails and raiding the snack table. I grabbed another beer and tried to process what Richard had told me. Coffee after workouts. 2 months. Right around the time Alicia had suddenly become obsessed with fitness, claiming she needed to work on herself. "Greg!" I turned to find Nikki approaching, dressed as a witch, but somehow making it look elegant instead of cheesy. She was the opposite of her husband, calm where he was chaotic, thoughtful where he was impulsive. If Richard was my oldest friend, Nikki was my smartest one. "Having fun?" she asked, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. "Oh, absolutely. Nothing like watching your wife flirt with a neighborhood stud while dressed like a superhero's wet dream." Nikki winced. "You saw that too, huh?" "Hard to miss. What's the story there, Nick? And don't tell me it's nothing." She glanced around, making sure we weren't overheard. "Look, I don't like gossip, you know that. but some of the girls have been talking. Alicia and Dominic have been spending a lot of time together lately. Gym sessions, coffee dates, long conversations in the parking lot after Susie's book club meetings. Book club meetings that Alicia doesn't even attend. Exactly. Nikki's expression was sympathetic but firm. I'm not saying anything's definitely happening, but you might want to keep your eyes open. Before I could respond, Susie burst into the kitchen like a tornado in a Wonder Woman costume. Greg, there you are. We were just talking about you. All good things, I hope. Of course. Alicia was telling us how you've been working so much lately. She barely sees you anymore. I felt my jaw clench. Funny, I've been working the same hours for 3 years. If anything, I've been home more since the new assistant manager started. Susie's smile faltered slightly. Well, you know how it is. Sometimes people grow apart. It's natural. Is it? I looked past her toward the living room, where I could see Alicia and Dominic still talking, now standing closer together. What's natural about that? Susie followed my gaze and her face flushed. Greg, don't make a scene. Not here. I'm not making anything, just observing. But I was making something, and we all knew it. The tension in the kitchen was thick enough to cut with my plastic pirate sword. Nikki put a warning hand on my arm. Maybe we should rejoin the party, she suggested diplomatically. Back in the living room, the music had gotten louder and the costumes more disheveled. Someone had started a game of charades that was quickly devolving into drunken interpretations of movie titles. I found a spot against the wall where I could watch the room without being obvious about it. Alicia was in her element, the center of attention in her skin-tight costume. She'd always been beautiful. That's what attracted me to her in college. But tonight there was something different about her energy. She was performing, but not for the room. She was performing for an audience of one. Dominic had positioned himself across from her, arms crossed, watching her with undisguised appreciation. When she bent over to pick up a dropped napkin, his eyes followed the curve of her body like a road map. When she laughed, he smiled like he'd personally told the joke. You see it too. I turned to find Richard beside me again, following my gaze. See what? The way they're looking at each other, like they're the only two people in the room. He was right. There was an intimacy to their interaction that went beyond casual friendship. They had inside jokes, shared glances, a rhythm that spoke of time spent together. A lot of time. How long has this been going on? I asked. I don't know for sure that anything's going on, Richard said carefully. But if I had to guess, a couple months, maybe since that barbecue at Mike and Sarah's place. Remember how they disappeared for like an hour? I remembered. Alicia had claimed she was helping Susie with something in the bathroom. Dominic had been getting more beer from the garage. Funny how their alibis kept them in the same part of the house. I should go talk to her. Greg. Richard's voice carried a warning. Not here. Not like this. But it was too late. The beer, the humiliation, the months of subtle changes in my wife's behavior. It all crystallized into a moment of perfect clarity. I pushed off from the wall and walked straight toward them. Having a good time, honey? Alicia looked up, startled. Greg? Yes, we were just talking about the new gym classes. Gym classes, right? I looked at Dominic, who was studying me with the expression of a man trying to decide if I was a threat. You must really love fitness, Dom, switching gyms and all. It's closer to work, he said evenly. Funny, I thought your work was on the other side of town. The conversation around us had quieted slightly. Not enough to be obvious, but enough that I knew people were listening. Alicia's smile was getting strained around the edges. Greg, why don't we get some air? She suggested. I'm fine right here. I'm learning so much about fitness, like how many calories you burn during those long coffee sessions after workouts. Dominic's expression hardened. You got something to say, Patterson? Just making conversation. Though I have to admit, I'm curious about your training regimen. Must be pretty intense to require so much consultation. Greg. Alicia's voice was sharp now, embarrassed. Stop. But I was just getting started. 3 months of suspicion, of feeling like a stranger in my own marriage, of watching my wife transform into someone I didn't recognize. It was all pouring out now. You know what's funny? My wife used to hate the gym, said it was full of meatheads and show-offs, but suddenly she's there every day, sometimes twice a day. Amazing what the right motivation can do. Dominic stepped closer, and I could smell the beer on his breath. You need to watch your mouth. Or what? You'll report me to the gym management? Greg, that's enough. Alicia grabbed my arm, her nails digging through the pirate shirt. We're leaving. Are we? Or are you just going to find another excuse to slip away with your workout buddy here? That did it. Dominic's face flushed red, and he took another step forward, close enough that I could see the pulse jumping in his neck. "You want to do this here?" he asked quietly. The smart thing would have been to back down. The mature thing would have been to walk away. But I was tired of being smart and mature while my wife made a fool of me. "I want to do this anywhere you'd like," I said. What happened next was pure instinct. Dominic drew back his fist, and I reacted the way I'd been trained 20 years ago in college boxing. I stepped inside his swing, grabbed his wrist, and used his own momentum to spin him around and dump his drink down the front of his gladiator costume. The room went dead silent. Dominic stood there dripping with beer and humiliation, his face a mask of rage. Alicia looked like she wanted to disappear through the floor, and everyone else was staring at us like we'd just provided the evening's entertainment. "Gentlemen," Richard appeared between us, his vampire fangs slightly askew, but his voice steady. "I think that's enough excitement for one evening." Dominic wiped beer from his face and fixed me with a look that could have melted steel. "This isn't over, Patterson." "No," I agreed, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "I don't think it is." He pushed through the crowd toward the door, leaving wet footprints on Richard's hardwood floor. Susie hurried after him, shooting me a look of pure venom as she passed. The party slowly resumed around us, conversations starting up again with the forced casualness of people pretending they hadn't just witnessed a domestic drama, but I could feel the stares, hear the whispers starting. Alicia was trembling with rage. "We're leaving, now." "Of course we are. Wouldn't want to miss your bedtime." She spun on me, eyes blazing. Don't you dare make this about me when you just humiliated yourself in front of everyone we know." "I humiliated myself? That's rich, coming from someone who's been playing house with the neighborhood musclehead for 3 months. You're drunk." "I'm clear-headed for the first time in months." We stared at each other across a gulf that felt like it had opened up in the space of 5 minutes. Around us, the party continued, but we might as well have been alone. "We'll talk about this at home," Alicia said finally. "Yeah," I agreed. "We definitely will." As we walked to the car, I caught Richard's eye. He raised his beer in a small salute, and I could swear I saw approval in his expression, maybe even respect. The drive home was silent, except for the sound of Alicia's breathing, sharp and angry in the darkness. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe too. The masquerade was over. The silence in our house was deafening. Alicia stormed upstairs without a word, her heels clicking against the hardwood like gunshots. I stood in our kitchen, still wearing the ridiculous pirate costume, and tried to process what had just happened. 20 minutes later, she came back down in sweatpants and one of my old college t-shirts, her makeup scrubbed off and her hair pulled back. Without the Catwoman costume and perfect face, she looked younger, more like the woman I'd married 10 years ago. It made what was coming somehow worse. "Sit down," she said, pointing to the kitchen table. "We need to talk." I pulled off the eye patch and dropped into a chair. "I'm listening." "What the hell was that tonight, Greg? What were you thinking?" "I was thinking my wife was flirting with another man in front of everyone we know." "Flirting?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I was having a conversation. You know, that thing people do at parties?" "Right, just a conversation. The kind that requires touching and whispering and disappearing together for coffee dates." Her face went very still. "Who told you about the coffee?" "Does it matter? The point is, it's true." Alicia was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were different, harder. "Okay. Yes, Dominic and I have had coffee a few times. Yes, we've become friends. But that's all it is, Greg, friendship. Bullshit. It's not bullshit. You want to know why I've been spending time with him? Because he listens to me. Because he asks about my day and actually cares about the answer. Because he makes me feel like I matter. And I don't? When was the last time you asked me how work was going? When was the last time you planned something for just the two of us? When was the last time you looked at me the way you looked at me tonight, actually seeing me instead of just expecting me to be there? The words hit harder than Dominic's fist would have, because there was truth in them, and we both knew it. So this is my fault? I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. I'm saying we've been drifting apart for a long time, and you only noticed tonight because another man was paying attention to your wife. I wanted to argue, but the fight was going out of me. She wasn't wrong about the drifting. Work had been consuming, the restaurants demanding more time and energy than I had to give. When I came home, I was exhausted, content to eat dinner and zone out in front of the TV. I'd stopped seeing Alicia as a person and started seeing her as part of the furniture, but that didn't excuse what I'd witnessed tonight. Even if that's true, I said carefully, It doesn't explain the way you two were looking at each other. That wasn't friendship, Alicia. That was something else. She was quiet again, and in that silence, I heard my answer. Jesus Christ, you're sleeping with him. No. But the word came too quickly, too sharp. No, I'm not sleeping with him. But you want to. This time, the silence stretched longer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know. It was the honesty that killed me. Not a denial, not an excuse, just raw truth delivered like a knife between the ribs. How long? I asked. How long what? How long have you been thinking about it? About him? Alicia stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our dark backyard. Since the gym, I guess. He's different from you, from the men I usually meet. He works with his hands, he's direct, he doesn't overthink everything. He's married. So am I. The simple statement hung between us like a challenge. I felt something fundamental shift in my understanding of who we were, who we'd become. What do you want, Alicia? From me, from this marriage, from whatever this is with Dominic? She turned back to face me, and I saw tears in her eyes for the first time that night. I want to feel alive again. I want to feel desired and interesting and like I'm more than just someone who pays half the mortgage and remembers to buy groceries. I want to matter to someone. You matter to me? Do I? When was the last time you told me I was beautiful? When was the last time you surprised me with anything? Flowers, dinner, a weekend away? When was the last time you made love to me instead of just having intimacy? Each question was a small indictment, and I couldn't answer any of them, not honestly. So what happens now? I asked. I don't know. I need time to think. Time to think, or time to decide between me and him? That's not fair. None of this is fair, Alicia. But I need to know where I stand. Are you going to keep seeing him? She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw her making a decision in real time. I can't promise I won't. It was the second honest answer of the night, and somehow it hurt worse than the first. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. Then I guess we both have some thinking to do. Greg, wait. I turned back at the kitchen doorway. I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did it anyway. Yes, I did it anyway. I went upstairs to our bedroom and lay down on top of the covers, still in my pirate costume. Through the thin walls, I could hear Alicia moving around downstairs, the soft sounds of someone trying to be quiet in a house that no longer felt like home. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. There was coffee made and a note on the counter. Gone to Susie's to talk. We'll figure this out. A. But I was pretty sure we wouldn't. I called in sick to work and spent the morning walking through our house like a detective, looking for clues I'd missed. I found them everywhere. Credit card statements showing coffee shops I'd never been to. Gym receipts for classes I didn't know she'd taken. New underwear hidden in the back of her drawer, still with tags attached. The most damning evidence was her phone bill. Dozens of texts and calls to Dominic's number, often late at night or early in the morning. Times when she'd claimed to be asleep next to me. By noon, I'd built a case that would have convinced any jury. My wife was having an affair, maybe not physical yet, but emotional, which somehow felt worse. She'd fallen in love with someone else while I wasn't paying attention. The question was, what was I going to do about it? My phone rang. Richard. How are you holding up? He asked. I've been better. Alicia's at Susie's, probably getting advice on how to handle her boring husband. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing last night. Someone needed to call them out. Yeah, well, it might have cost me my marriage. Greg, can I ask you something? Do you want to save your marriage? The question caught me off guard. Of course I do. Are you sure? Because from where I was standing last night, you looked like a man who was done being taken for granted. I thought about that. Was I trying to save my marriage, or was I just angry at being made a fool of? I don't know, I admitted. I love her, but I don't know if I can trust her again. That's fair. But if you're going to fight for her, you need to decide soon. Because guys like Dominic don't wait around. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen and tried to imagine my life without Alicia. No more shared coffee in the morning, no more someone to come home to, no more inside jokes and shared memories. It felt empty, but it also felt honest in a way our marriage hadn't for months. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your wife looks good in latex. Too bad you can't appreciate what you have. D. I stared at the message for a full minute, feeling rage build in my chest like steam in a kettle. He was taunting me. The bastard was actually taunting me. I typed back, enjoy the show while it lasts. Some of us have more to offer than a gym membership and a high school education. His response came immediately. We'll see about that. It was a declaration of war, and we both knew it. When Alicia came home that evening, she found me in the living room, still in yesterday's clothes, surrounded by evidence of her affair spread out on the coffee table like a prosecutor's exhibit. She stopped in the doorway, taking it all in. You went through my things. I went through our things. Funny how different they look when you know what you're looking for. She sat down across from me, not bothering to deny what was laid out between us. What do you want me to say, Greg? I want you to tell me the truth, all of it. Okay. The truth is that I've been unhappy for a long time. The truth is that Dominic makes me feel things I haven't felt in years. The truth is that I've been thinking about leaving you. For him? For me. But yes, probably with him. It was the third honest answer, and this time I was ready for it. Then do it, I said. She blinked, surprised. What? Do it. Leave. Go be with your gladiator and see how that works out for you. Greg, I don't want to hurt you more than I already have. Too late for that. But I'm not going to sit here and compete for my own wife. I'm not going to beg you to choose me over him. If you want to go, go. Alicia stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. You're serious. Dead serious. But understand this. If you leave, you don't get to come back. If you choose him, you live with that choice. And what about you? What will you do? I looked around our living room, at the life we'd built together, at the evidence of its destruction spread out on the coffee table. I'll figure it out. I always do. She nodded slowly, tears starting to fall. I'm sorry, Greg. I really am. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. That night, she slept in the guest room. The next morning, she was gone again before I woke up, but this time there was no note. I didn't expect to see her again. I was wrong. 3 days passed without a word from Alicia. I threw myself into work, covering extra shifts and staying late to avoid going home to an empty house. The restaurants were busy with the post-Halloween rush, and the distraction was welcome, but I couldn't escape the whispers. Word had gotten out about the party confrontation, and in a city like Columbus, gossip traveled faster than bad news. I caught my staff exchanging glances, conversations stopping when I walked into a room. Everyone knew, and everyone was watching to see how I'd handle it. On Thursday evening, I was closing up the downtown location when my phone rang. Nikki. Greg, are you okay? Richard's been worried about you. I'm fine. Working late, keeping busy. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Where's Alicia? I locked the restaurant door and walked toward my car. Your guess is as good as mine. She's been gone since Tuesday. Gone where? I assume she's with her new boyfriend, or at Susie's planning her exit strategy. Does it matter? Nikki was quiet for a moment. Richard wants you to come over for dinner this weekend. No big deal, just the three of us. He thinks you need friends right now. Tell him thanks, but I'm not great company these days. Greg, listen to me. Don't shut us out. Whatever's happening with Alicia, you don't have to go through it alone. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the empty parking lot and tried to decide what I wanted. Did I want Alicia to come home so we could work things out? Did I want her to stay gone so I could move on? Did I want to fight for her or let her go? The answer came Friday morning when I found her in our kitchen, making coffee like nothing had happened. Morning, she said without looking up. Morning, didn't hear you come in. Late last night, I tried not to wake you. She was dressed for work in a sharp business suit, her hair perfect, her makeup flawless. She looked like the successful woman she'd always wanted to be. She also looked like a stranger. We need to talk, she said. I figured. She poured 2 cups of coffee and sat down across from me at the table where we'd eaten breakfast together for 10 years. The normalcy of it felt surreal. I've made a decision, she said. I'm listening. I want to try to make this work. Our marriage. I want to try to fix what's broken. I studied her face, looking for signs of sincerity. What changed your mind? I realized that running away isn't going to solve anything. We have 10 years together, Greg. That has to count for something. And Dominic? I told him it's over. Whatever was happening between us, it's done. I wanted to believe her. Part of me was desperate to believe her, but something in her expression didn't match her words. Just like that? You told him it's over and he accepted it? It wasn't easy, but yes, he understood. I find that hard to believe. He didn't seem like the type to give up without a fight. Alicia's jaw tightened slightly. What do you want me to say, Greg? I'm here. I'm trying to save our marriage. Isn't that what you wanted? I want the truth. I want to know if you're here because you want to be, or because it's the safe choice. Can't it be both? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text. I glanced at it automatically and felt my blood turn cold. It was a photo of Alicia and Dominic, taken yesterday at what looked like a hotel bar. They were sitting close together, her hand on his arm, both of them laughing. The timestamp showed 3:47 p.m., right around the time she would have been thinking about our marriage at Susie's house. I turned the phone so she could see the screen. Her face went white. Greg, I can explain. Can you? Because this looks like someone who's made her choice. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you lied to me. Again. Alicia reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. Who sent this? Does it matter? Oh, yes, it matters. Someone's trying to sabotage us. I looked at the sender's number, same unknown contact who texted me before. Dominic. Your boyfriend sent it, I said. He's not my boyfriend. Then why is he sending me pictures of your date? It wasn't a date. We met to talk about ending things. That picture is taken out of context. I stood up from the table, suddenly exhausted by the lies. You know what, Alicia? I don't care anymore. I don't care if it was a date or a goodbye or a business meeting. I don't care about the context or the explanation or whatever story you've prepared. Greg, please. I care that you lied to me again. I care that even when you're supposedly trying to save our marriage, you're still sneaking around with him. I was trying to handle it quietly. You were trying to have it both ways. Keep me as the safe backup while you figured out if he was worth the risk. Alicia's composure finally cracked. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been coming to me months ago when you started having feelings for someone else. Fair would have been working on our marriage before looking for an exit ramp. Fair would have been honesty instead of this elaborate charade. I walked toward the kitchen door, then stopped and turned back. I'm done, Alicia. Whatever you decide to do, wherever you decide to go, I'm done trying to compete for my own wife. So that's it? 10 years of marriage and you're just giving up? I'm not giving up. I'm accepting reality. You already made your choice. You made it months ago when you started texting him, having coffee with him, thinking about him instead of thinking about us. And what if I choose you? What if I cut off all contact with Dominic and commit to making this work? I looked at her sitting at our kitchen table in her perfect suit with her perfect makeup, and I realized I didn't believe her anymore. Maybe she meant it in this moment, but I didn't trust that she'd mean it tomorrow or next week or the next time Dominic texted her. Then you should have done that 3 months ago. I left her sitting there and went to work, but I couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus on inventory reports or staff schedules. The photo kept flashing in my mind, not just the image, but what it represented. Even when she was supposedly ending things with him, she looked happy. Happier than she'd looked with me in months. Around noon, Richard called. I heard Alicia's back. News travels fast. Small town, even in a big city. How are you holding up? I told him about the morning's conversation, about the photo, about the feeling that I was fighting a battle I'd already lost. What are you going to do? He asked. I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to keep trying, but I don't think I can trust her again. Trust is earned. She broke it, she has to rebuild it. That's on her, not you. Yeah, but what if she can't? What if we're just delaying the inevitable? Richard was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? Nikki and I went through a rough patch about 5 years ago. Nothing like this, but we were distant, taking each other for granted. It took work to fix it. Real work from both of us. Did you want to fix it? Both of you, I mean. That's the key question, isn't it? You can't save a marriage by yourself. That evening, I came home to find Alicia in the living room with a bottle of wine and what looked like a prepared speech. I know you don't want to hear this, she began, but I need you to understand something. What happened with Dominic wasn't about him, it was about us, about what we'd stopped being to each other. I sat down across from her, too tired to fight. Okay, I'm listening. When we first got married, you used to look at me like I was the most interesting person in the world. You'd ask about my dreams, my fears, my opinions on everything. Somewhere along the way, you stopped asking. I became part of the routine instead of part of your life. So you found someone who would ask. Yes, and I know that was wrong. I know I should have talked to you first, should have tried to fix us before looking elsewhere. But Greg, I felt invisible in my own marriage. I wanted to argue, but there was truth in what she was saying. I had stopped asking, stopped seeing her as anything more than my wife, a role instead of a person. Even if that's true, I said, it doesn't excuse the lying. It doesn't excuse sneaking around for months while pretending everything was fine. You're right, it doesn't. And it doesn't explain why you were still seeing him yesterday while telling me you wanted to work on us. Alicia poured herself another glass of wine. I needed closure. I needed to end things properly. By having drinks and laughing like old friends? By explaining that I was choosing my marriage, by asking him to respect that choice. And what did he say? She was quiet for a long moment. He said he'd wait. He'd wait for what? For me to realize I was making a mistake. The honesty was brutal, but I appreciated it more than another lie. And will you realize you're making a mistake? I don't know. I hope not. It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was the answer I expected. She was choosing me by default, not by desire. She was choosing safety over passion, security over excitement. That's not enough, Alicia. What do you mean? I mean, I don't want to be your consolation prize. I don't want to be the guy you settle for because he's safe and reliable and pays half the mortgage. That's not how I see you. Isn't it? When was the last time you looked at me the way you looked at him in that photo? When was the last time I made you laugh like that? She didn't answer because we both knew the truth. I want to try, she said finally. I want to remember why we fell in love, why we chose each other, but I can't do it alone. Neither can I, and I can't do it while competing with his memory. Then what do you want from me? I thought about it, really thought about it. What would it take for me to trust her again? What would it take for us to rebuild what we'd lost? I want you to want me, not choose me because it's practical or safe or the right thing to do. I want you to want me the way you wanted him. And if I can't, if those feelings are gone, then we'll know we tried everything, Alicia nodded slowly. How long do we try? How do we know when it's working or when it's time to give up? I don't know, but I know we can't do it while he's still in the picture. No contact, no closure meetings, no friendly goodbyes. If you want to save us, he has to be completely out of your life. Okay, and I need complete honesty. No more lies, no more half-truths, no more protecting my feelings. If you're having doubts, if you're thinking about him, if you want out, I need to know. That might be harder than you think. Probably, but it's the only way this works. We sat in silence for a while, drinking wine and contemplating the wreckage of our marriage. Outside, I could hear our neighbors coming home from work, kids playing in yards, dogs barking, all the sounds of normal life continuing around us. Greg? Yeah? I'm sorry for all of it. I'm sorry I let it get this far, and I'm sorry I hurt you. I know you are. Are we going to be okay? I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and tried to see past the hurt and anger to the woman I'd fallen in love with. She was still there, but she felt different now. We both did. I don't know, I said, but we're going to find out. That night, we slept in the same bed for the first time in a week. We didn't touch, didn't talk, but we were in the same space, breathing the same air, trying to find our way back to each other. I lay awake for hours, listening to her breathe and wondering if love was enough to overcome betrayal, wondering if trust could be rebuilt or if some things, once broken, stayed broken forever. I was about to find out. 2 weeks into our reconciliation attempt, I thought we might actually make it. Alicia was trying, really trying. She came home straight from work, put her phone away during dinner, asked about my day, and seemed to actually listen to the answers. We went to couples therapy, had long talks about our marriage, even managed to laugh together a few times. But I could feel the effort it took. Every gesture felt calculated, every conversation slightly forced. She was playing the role of a devoted wife trying to save her marriage, and she was playing it well. The problem was that it felt like a performance. Still, I wanted to believe it was working. I needed to believe it. That illusion shattered on a Tuesday evening when I came home early from work with flowers, a spontaneous gesture our therapist had suggested, and found Alicia on the phone in our bedroom. I know, she was saying, her back to the door. It's complicated. Just give me more time. She was speaking quietly, intimately, in the tone she used to use with me. I miss you too, she continued. This is harder than I thought it would be. I stood frozen in the doorway, flowers in hand, listening to my wife have what was clearly an emotional conversation with another man. There was only one person it could be. Alicia. She spun around, phone still pressed to her ear, eyes wide with panic. Greg, I didn't hear you come in. Hang up. It's just... Hang up the phone. Now. She said something quickly into the phone and ended the call. I can explain. I dropped the flowers on the dresser and sat down heavily on the bed. Go ahead. Explain how you're talking to Dominic after promising me you'd cut off all contact. He called me. I didn't call him. And you answered. I was trying to get him to stop calling. I was trying to make him understand that it's really over. By telling him you miss him too? Alicia's face crumpled. You heard that? I heard enough. How long has this been going on? How long have you been talking to him while pretending to work on our marriage? It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been lying to me for 2 weeks while carrying on an emotional affair. She sat down beside me, tears starting to fall. He won't accept that it's over. He keeps calling, texting, showing up at my work. I've been trying to handle it without involving you. By having intimate conversations with him? By trying to let him down easy. By trying to make this transition as painless as possible for everyone. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our neighborhood. Normal houses with normal families dealing with normal problems, not this soap opera bullshit. You know what the really sad part is? I said without turning around. I actually thought we were making progress. I thought you were choosing me, choosing us. I am choosing us. No, you're not. You're keeping both options open while you decide which one you want more. That's not true. I turned back to face her. Then prove it. Call him back. Right now, with me listening, and tell him it's over. Tell him you never want to see him again, never want to talk to him again. End it completely. Greg, I can't just... You can't, or you won't. It's not that simple. It is that simple. If you want to save our marriage, you cut him out of your life completely. No phone calls, no text messages, no letting him down easy. You choose me, or you choose him, but you don't get to choose both. Alicia wiped her eyes and looked at me with something that might have been resentment. You're asking me to be cruel to him. I'm asking you to be loyal to me, to your husband, to the marriage you claim you want to save. And if I do this, if I cut him off completely, will you trust me again? Will you stop watching me, stop questioning everything I do? I don't know, but I know I'll never trust you if you don't. She picked up her phone and stared at it for a long moment. I could see the internal struggle playing out on her face. Duty versus desire, security versus passion, the life she'd built versus the life she imagined. I need time to think, she said finally. Time to think about what? About whether you want to be married to me or not? Time to think about how to do this right. How to end things with Dominic in a way that doesn't destroy everyone involved. Everyone's already destroyed, Alicia. The question is whether we're going to rebuild or just keep tearing each other apart. That night, she slept in the guest room again. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up, leaving only a note. Gone to work early. We'll talk tonight. But when I got home that evening, she wasn't there. Her car was in the driveway, but the house was empty. I called her phone and it went straight to voicemail. At 9 o'clock, she walked through the front door looking like she'd been crying. Where were you? I asked. Walking, thinking, trying to figure out how to fix this mess. And what did you decide? She sat down across from me in the living room, and I could see the decision in her eyes before she spoke. I can't do it, Greg. I can't cut him out of my life completely. Because you don't want to hurt him? Because I don't want to hurt myself. Because whatever's happening between us feels real in a way that nothing has felt real in years. It was the fourth honest answer, and somehow I'd been expecting it. So, what are you saying? You're choosing him? I'm saying I can't choose. Not yet. I need more time. Time to what? Test drive both relationships and see which one fits better? Time to figure out what I really want, without pressure from either of you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's not how marriage works, Alicia. You don't get to put your husband on hold while you explore your options. Then what do you want me to do? Make a decision I'm not ready to make and end up resenting you for forcing it? I want you to remember that you already made a decision, 10 years ago, when you married me. I want you to honor that commitment, even if I'm not happy, even if it's hard, even if it requires work, even if it means giving up something you want for something you promised. Alicia shook her head. That's not fair to either of us. You know what's not fair. Expecting me to compete for my own wife, asking me to be patient while you figure out if you love me enough to stay married to me. I do love you. But you love him too. Yes, I love him too. It was the fifth honest answer, and it broke something in me that I didn't know could break. Then we're done, I said quietly. Greg, don't say that. We can work through this. No, we can't, because you're in love with someone else, because you'd rather hurt me than hurt him, because when you had to choose between your marriage and your affair, you chose the affair. I didn't choose anything. I just said I need more time. And I just said we're done. I stood up and walked toward the stairs, then stopped and looked back at her. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow I'll start looking for an apartment. You can have the house, the marriage, and whatever future you want to build with Dominic. You're really going to throw away 10 years because I'm confused? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that. Greg, please, don't end it like this. I'm not ending it. You ended it months ago, when you decided another man was more important than your husband. That night, I lay in the guest room bed and tried to process the end of my marriage. There was grief, but also relief. Relief that I didn't have to pretend anymore, didn't have to compete anymore, didn't have to wonder if my wife was thinking about another man when she looked at me. In the morning, Alicia was gone again, but this time she'd left more than a note. She'd left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter next to a letter. Greg, it read, I know you think I'm choosing him over you, but that's not what this is. I'm choosing honesty over pretense, even if it hurts us both. I can't be the wife you deserve while I'm in love with someone else. I can't fake feelings I don't have or promise a future I'm not sure I want. You deserve better than that. You deserve someone who chooses you first, always, without question. I'm sorry I can't be that person anymore. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry our story ends like this. But I think we both know it's been ending for a while now. We were just too afraid to admit it. Take care of yourself. You're a good man, and you'll find someone who sees that. Alicia. I read the letter 3 times, then put it in a drawer with her ring. She was right about one thing. Our story had been ending for a while. We'd just been too stubborn or too scared to write the final chapter. But as I sat in our empty kitchen drinking coffee from my favorite mug, I realized something surprising. I wasn't devastated. I was angry, hurt, disappointed, but not devastated. Maybe because the woman I'd fallen in love with had already been gone for months. Maybe because fighting for someone who doesn't want to be fought for is exhausting. Or maybe because I was finally ready to stop being the supporting character in my own life. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard. Coffee? I heard Alicia moved out. I typed back, How did you hear that? Susie's been telling everyone. Apparently she and Dominic are finally free to be together. Coffee sounds good, but somewhere else. I'm tired of being the neighborhood entertainment. An hour later, I was sitting across from Richard in a downtown cafe, telling him about the last few weeks. How are you holding up? He asked. Better than I expected. Worse than I hoped. Any regrets? I thought about it. I regret not seeing it coming sooner. I regret not fighting for us before there was someone else to fight against. But I don't regret ending it. She made her choice. What's next? Find a place to live. Figure out the divorce. Try to remember who I was before I became half of a couple. Richard nodded. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. You can't save a marriage by yourself. Yeah, well, tell that to everyone else. I'm sure I'll be the villain in Alicia's version of events. Let her tell whatever story she needs to tell. You know the truth. As I walked back to my car, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Possibility. Not happiness, not yet, but the sense that my life was my own again, that I could make choices based on what I wanted instead of what would keep my marriage together. It was terrifying and liberating at the same time. That evening, I started looking for apartments online. Tomorrow, I'd call a lawyer. Next week, I'd tell my staff what was happening before they heard it through the gossip mill. But tonight, I was going to sit in my house now, and try to imagine what came next. For the first time in months, I was looking forward to finding out. 3 months after Alicia moved out, I was settling into my new life as a divorced man. I'd found a decent apartment downtown, close to work, and far from the suburban gossip mill. The divorce proceedings were moving forward with minimal drama. Alicia wanted out clean and fast, and I wasn't going to fight her on it. I should have been happier. I should have been relieved to be free of a marriage that had become a source of constant anxiety and humiliation. Instead, I felt hollow, like I was going through the motions of living without actually engaging with life. That changed on a Thursday evening when Richard called with news. You're not going to believe this, he said without preamble. Dominic and Alicia broke up. I was in my kitchen making dinner for one, again, and nearly dropped the phone. What? Susie's been telling everyone. Apparently it lasted about 6 weeks after you separated. He dumped her for someone else. Someone else? Who? Get this. Jenny from Alicia's old marketing department. 23 years old, fresh out of college, thinks Dominic is some kind of blue-collar god. I sat down heavily at my small dining table. Jesus. It gets better. Alicia's been calling Susie crying every night. Apparently she's devastated, can't understand how he could do this to her after everything she gave up for him. Everything she gave up? I repeated. Right. The irony is pretty thick, isn't it? She left a man who loved her for a man who was just looking for his next conquest. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt like justice had been served. Instead, I felt sorry for her. Despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal and the way she'd torn our life apart, I felt sorry for the woman I'd loved for 10 years. "How is she handling it?" I asked. "Not well, from what I hear. She had to move back in with her parents. Lost her job when the company downsized. Susie says she's been asking about you." "Asking what?" "How you're doing, whether you're seeing anyone, whether you'd be willing to talk to her." "And what did Susie tell her?" "That you're doing great, and it's too late for second thoughts." I wasn't sure either of those things was true, but I appreciated the loyalty. "Richard, can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "Do you think I gave up too easily? Should I have fought harder for the marriage?" He was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, I think you fought as hard as anyone could. You can't save a marriage when only one person wants to save it." "But what if she wants to save it now? What if losing Dominic made her realize what she had with me? Then she's learned a valuable lesson, but that doesn't mean you owe her another chance." After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment and tried to process the news. Alicia was free, single, and apparently regretting her choices. 6 months ago, that would have been everything I wanted to hear. Now, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Greg, it's Alicia. I know I don't have the right to contact you, but I need to talk to you. Please." I stared at the message for 10 minutes before responding. "What do you want to talk about?" "Everything. I made a terrible mistake. I know that now." "Which mistake? Leaving me or trusting him?" "Both. All of it. Can we meet, just to talk?" I typed and deleted a dozen responses. Part of me wanted to tell her to go to hell, that she'd made her bed and could lie in it. Part of me wanted to see her, to hear what she had to say, to find out if there was anything left of what we'd once had. "Coffee," I typed finally. "Saturday morning, neutral location." "Thank you. I know I don't deserve this." "No, you don't." Saturday morning found me sitting in a cafe I'd never been to, waiting for my ex-wife to arrive. I'd chosen a place across town from our old neighborhood, somewhere we had no history, no shared memories to complicate things. She walked in 10 minutes late, looking nothing like the confident woman who'd left me 6 months earlier. She'd lost weight, her clothes hung loose, and there were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. She looked fragile in a way I'd never seen before. "Hi," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Hi. Thank you for meeting me. I wasn't sure you would." I wasn't sure I would either. She ordered coffee with shaking hands and spent a long moment just looking at me. "You look good," she said finally. "Healthy." "I feel better than I have in a long time." "I'm glad. I was worried about how you'd handle everything." "You were worried about me? While you were playing house with your boyfriend?" She flinched. "I deserved that." "You deserve a lot worse than that." "I know. Greg, I need you to know that I realize how badly I screwed up, how badly I hurt you, how wrong I was about everything." "What happened, Alicia? What made you realize all this?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee cup. "He left me for someone else, just like I left you for him." "And that's when you realized it was wrong?" "That's when I realized what I'd thrown away, what I'd given up for someone who never really wanted me, not the way you did." "So you're here because he rejected you, not because you actually want to be here." "No, that's not—" She stopped, took a breath, tried again. "That's how it started, yes. When he left, I was devastated, but not just because I'd lost him, because I realized I'd lost you too, and you were the one who actually mattered. I mattered so much that you chose him over me. I was confused. I was stupid. I was selfish and cruel, and I made the worst mistake of my life. Which was? Thinking that excitement was more important than love, thinking that passion was more valuable than partnership, thinking that someone who made me feel alive for a few months was worth more than someone who'd been my home for 10 years. The words sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced them, but there were tears in her eyes, and her voice was shaking, and I found myself wanting to believe her despite everything. "What do you want from me, Alicia?" "I want another chance. I want to try again. I want to spend the rest of my life making up for what I did to you, to us." "And what makes you think I want that?" "Nothing. I'm hoping, but I know I have no right to hope. I know I burned everything down, and I can't expect you to help me rebuild it." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, of calculation. All I saw was genuine regret and desperate hope. "Do you love me?" I asked. "Yes, more than I ever realized when I had you." Or do you just love the idea of not being alone? I love you. I love your kindness and your strength and your loyalty. I love the way you used to look at me like I was the most important person in your world. I love the life we built together, and I hate myself for destroying it. But you did destroy it. You can't unring that bell, Alicia. You can't take back the choice you made. I know. But maybe we can build something new, something better, because we both know how precious it is. I wanted to say yes. Despite everything, despite the pain and the humiliation and the months of rebuilding my life without her, part of me wanted to say yes. Because I'd loved her for 10 years, and that kind of love doesn't just disappear. But I'd learned something about myself in the months since she'd left. I'd learned that I was stronger than I thought, more resilient than I'd imagined. I'd learned that I could be happy alone, that I didn't need someone else to complete me. Most importantly, I'd learned that I deserved better than to be someone's second choice. I can't, I said finally. Can't or won't? Both. I can't trust you again, and I won't put myself through that kind of pain again. Not even if I prove to you that I've changed, that I understand what I lost. How would you prove that? How would I ever know that you wouldn't leave again the next time someone more exciting came along? She didn't have an answer for that, because we both knew there wasn't one. I'm sorry, Alicia. I'm sorry you're hurting, and I'm sorry things didn't work out the way you hoped. But I can't be your consolation prize again. You were never a consolation prize. Wasn't I? You left me for him. Now that he's gone, you want me back. That's the definition of a consolation prize. That's not how I see it. It doesn't matter how you see it. It matters how it is. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of 10 years and all our broken promises hanging between us. What if I wait? She asked finally. What if I give you time to heal, to forgive, and then we try again? Don't wait for me, Alicia. Move on. Find someone who can love you the way you need to be loved, someone you won't be tempted to leave. There won't be anyone else. You were it for me. You didn't think so 6 months ago. I was wrong 6 months ago. And you might be wrong now. You might just be lonely and scared, and looking for something familiar. She started crying then, quiet tears that she wiped away with shaking hands. I know you have every right to hate me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I love you, Greg. I love you, and I'm sorry. And I would do anything to take it all back. I don't hate you, I said, and realized it was true. I'm disappointed in you. I'm hurt by what you did. But I don't hate you. Then why can't we try again? Because love isn't enough. Trust matters. Respect matters. The knowledge that your partner chooses you every day, not just when all the other options are gone. I would choose you every day now. I know that. You can't know that. Neither of us can. I stood up and put money on the table for both our coffees. Take care of yourself, Alicia. I mean that. I hope you find what you're looking for. What I'm looking for is you. No, what you're looking for is the safety and security you threw away. I'm just the most familiar path back to that. I walked out of the cafe and didn't look back. In my car, I sat for a few minutes and let myself feel the full weight of what had just happened. I'd had the chance to get my wife back, to rebuild my marriage, to return to the life I'd known for 10 years. And I'd walked away. Not because I didn't love her, but because I loved myself more. Because I'd learned the difference between being alone and being lonely, between settling and thriving. My phone buzzed with one final text from her. I'll always love you. I'll always be sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. I typed back, I already have, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean going back. Then I blocked her number and drove home to my quiet apartment, my simple life, my hard-won peace. For the first time in over a year, I felt truly free. 6 months later, I was managing a new restaurant across town when a woman came in for lunch. She was pretty in an understated way, with kind eyes and an easy smile. We struck up a conversation about the menu, then about books, then about life in general. Her name was Sarah, she was a teacher, and she laughed at my jokes in a way that felt genuine instead of polite. When she left, she gave me her number without me asking for it. Call me if you'd like to continue this conversation sometime, she said. I called her that evening. Our first date was coffee, nothing fancy. Our second was dinner at a little Italian place she recommended. Our third was a long walk through the park, talking about everything and nothing. She didn't ask about my divorce until our fifth date, and when I told her the story, she listened without judgment. That must have been incredibly painful, she said. It was, but it taught me what I really want in a relationship. Which is? Someone who chooses me first. Someone who sees me as the adventure, not as the safe harbor they return to when the adventure is over. Sarah smiled. I think I can manage that. A year later, we moved in together. 2 years after that, I proposed. She said yes without hesitation, and I knew with absolute certainty that she meant it. At our wedding, Richard gave a toast. To Greg and Sarah, who proved that sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is having your heart broken by the wrong person, because it teaches you to recognize the right one. I looked across the room at my new wife, radiant in her wedding dress, surrounded by friends and family who genuinely celebrated our happiness. Then I thought about Alicia, wherever she was, whatever life she'd built for herself after our marriage ended. I hoped she was happy. I hoped she'd learned from our mistakes. I hoped she'd found someone who could love her the way she needed to be loved. But mostly, I was grateful that she'd let me go, because in losing her, I'd found myself. And in finding myself, I'd found Sarah. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. Sometimes the greatest victory is knowing when to walk away. And sometimes the end of one's story is just the beginning of a better one.